it was like it was a movie coming through the outfield gates. George Brett was there. Joe Torre was then the manager for the Dodgers, and all these guys just like little kids with him. And the audience on cue, recognizing him, he had his sunglasses on, just extraordinary. I mean, some tears in their eyes, all of them clapping. It was maybe 15,000 in a spring training game in Surprise. And I'm sitting there after we got into our seats, front row behind home plate. And George Brett's on the other side of the screen because he's, in spring training, he helps out the Royals mostly by telling dirty jokes. Just kidding. He's, I think, along with Ted Williams, one of the 2 or 3 best hitters of all time.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there. There's the greatest Royal of all time, one of the best hitters of all time, the greatest to my right, and literally right here is Wayne Gretzky, the great one.
Wow.
So that was a nice constellation of amazing people. But the greatest story about him is that as we left, because his Parkinson's drugs only lasted about 4 or 5 hours, so the end of the 6th inning, we're heading back, and it was, frustrating to have to leave, but he's shaking. And as we go out in the car, and I'm worried because he's tired. And as we come around the corner, I can see the white Range Rover that we were driving, and there's a whole crowd of kids and about 6, 7 adults. And it was the kids of the coaches and the front office staff for the Royals waiting for him. And I'm thinking, this is going to be too much. As we approached, Mohammed switched to another gear. The shaking stopped, and he was like Santa Claus, where each one of these kids took their turn sitting on his lap, taking pictures, and this truly angelic smile on his face. He was a man. It's interesting. We all evolve, hopefully, in stages in our lives, but, one of the greatest, most courageous stands, in our history, and to be vilified the way he was for the Vietnam War, and then to be sanctified, if you will, and redeemed at the Olympics in Atlanta in '96, holding the Olympic torch. I just saw this incredible human being who put people first. So you might say he was an ego, but he was an angelic human being.
And they loved him here, man. The day of his funeral, where everybody and their brother from everywhere around the world came in for. They had it at the Yum Center. All 21,000 seats were filled, but they had a funeral procession that went around the entire city, and the streets were just lined with people.
Who would argue more than Michael Jackson? Of course, we know some things about Michael Jackson that would take him off that list at this point anyway, as great as his music was. But the world's greatest citizen, during our time. The most universal. And if we could have had his capacity to speak and articulate, to bring together Jew and Christian and Muslim in the last 20 years, what would that have done for this world?
Exactly, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. All right. Well, let's officially kick this sucker off here.
Let's do that.
Segment.
We're doing something? What are we doing? Yeah, I'm still going to try to find this photo, though, with Beyonce. You got to find it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think? Okay.
Yeah, let's kick it off, and let's use that story right off the bat.
She's looking back over her shoulder at me. So what happened was at halftime, Jay-Z was on the court, and he's turned and talking to his homies with a basketball like this, totally ignoring her again at halftime. So I walk over, and she's like, hi, and we're talking. I took a selfie. It wasn't the best photo, but, we talked a little bit. And then I went back to my seat. And about 2 minutes later, she looks back at me, looks over at him, and rolls her eyes and looks back at me like, give me some attention, baby. I'm like, I love you. Have my children. Please, have my children now.
It's a shame, Nick. It's a shame you just rest on your laurels and don't have any personality, man. It really is. But
I'm better looking, and damn it, people like me. Marry me. Marry me. Anyway, hold on. I gotta find this thing. I gotta find where the photos are on here so I can check in the photos. There it is. Okay,
Nick, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something strange here and actually open the show and introduce you.
Okay,
And
let me be prepared so you're ready for this because this will be good. And I can show
Okay.
you photos with Mohammed in the NBA locker room too. I'm not sure, it'll be limited based on I hope that these little cameras on the top of our computers get improved over time. I did another thing with George Benson. Do you remember George Benson?
Yeah.
And he and Mohammed were big time. There's a photo with them. Hold on. If you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Bring the bottom a little closer. There you go. Oh, very nice.
That's Marilyn, Lonnie's sister, who grew up on the same street in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little blurred. Hold on a second here. And then here's my man doing magic tricks. I mean, and he would become literally, there's the best one. He would become.
Yeah.
That's a great shot.
Yeah.
He would become the same performer. That's a good one.
Very cool.
If it'll focus it. Hold on. Focus, baby. Focus. Anyway, hold on. All right, then moving on to the little lady, oh, here you go. So here are the NBA All-Star ones. So look at Allen Iverson, who's usually used to Mr. Tough Guy. Mixed a gangster.
Yeah.
I can hear him now saying, practice? Why are we talking practice?
Practice. And there's Bill Russell and then Magic Johnson. They're all like little kids with him. It's just so beautiful to see. There's another good one here. Look at the looks on these guys' faces.
Wowza. That's amazing.
It's a fan club, man.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And it's because he embodied leadership and courage, not to mention the ultimate level of athletic achievement, right? Better than anybody. All right, here it is. There's my love.
He's got the picture to prove it.
Yes, he does.
I wish I could get it. Why is it not focusing?
Oh, we have trouble focusing.
Yeah, it's the ADD kicking in, man.
That's right. All right, you have proof. I don't see her blowing you a kiss or anything, so that's probably good.
That might have been a little inappropriate, but I was hoping that just by osmosis we could have children. They'd be able to dance, they'd be able to kick with her booty and mine, think 80-yard field goals, and sing the national anthem all at once.
Oh my gosh. Except I'm afraid that if you started to kick it and aim for the middle, it would go to the left, to the left.
To the left, to the left.
To the left.
To the left,
Sorry.
to the left.
You're going to set me up like that. I'm going to just slam it home.
Are you guys done?
I'm good with that. Yep.
All right, here we go. Let's officially kick this thing off here. Pardon the expression.
What are you
And 3.
You just say that?
1. Hey, it is us. We promised you a stellar and luminary guest, and we have one. I'm John Ashton. He is Neil Michaels, and I'm sorry that we took so long to get to him because this is a guy we should have started talking to eons ago. But Nick Lowry, and the name rings a bell, but I'm going to let Neil, the head of Chiefs Nation, Michaels.
That's Lowry.
Nick Lowry.
Like Lowry. Like, Mike Lowry's brother?
I'm the brother of Mike Lowry.
I was going to say, I do that every time I hear your name. I think Mike Lowry. I'm Mike Lowry's brother.
Listen, flying back on team planes, especially after we won, which with the Jets wasn't a whole lot, but with the Chiefs was, I'd be walking down the aisle, Mike Lowry, 15 times.
I wonder if Martin Lawrence knew at the time that was going to be so quotable. So Nick Lowry, for those of you who go, I know the name rings a bell. Yes, 3-time All-Pro for the Kansas City Chiefs.
7 times All-Pro.
What?
7 times All-Pro, 3 times Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowl. Sorry, it does say right here, 3-time Pro Bowl. Yes, it does. Kicker for the Chiefs, and then there were 2 other teams. Had the best field goal percentage and most field goals in NFL history when he retired. Longest field goal in Chiefs history, 58 yards, which has been tied twice but not beaten yet.
I had it twice too. In fact, if you look
Yes, you
at the video, it was really 59 yards against the Raiders, but because the Chiefs emblem was covering the hash marks, the knuckleheads were like, it's 58. No, it's 59. In fact, Todd Christensen, my buddy, who was the player rep for one of the player reps for the Raiders, said it was the longest kick he ever saw, because if you watch it, I can send you the video, it goes left to right and hits about 2/3 of the way up the net from 59 yards. Not bad.
Yeah, see, today they would say, he had another 15 yards on that one. And then but you still wouldn't get credit for 71.
Oh, I wouldn't expect credit for 71.
Yeah, there you go. Also, by the way, this is interesting because John usually does the geography thing. I knew somebody who lived in the same area I did. You grew up in Washington, D.C. and went to St. Albans, which my first program director ever in radio went to St. Albans, Chuck Dickman.
Really?
And you're about the same age. So
he was in my class.
Was he?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. We had a class of 64, and Chuck Dickman, I'm not going to make any jokes about that last name.
Believe me, he's heard them all.
Don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't have to. And by the way,
if the shoe fits.
With a first name Nick, you can imagine the poetry that's out there as well. Nick, Dickman. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I will contact him through social media and say Nick Lowry says hi.
Exactly.
So we've got a lot to talk to you about today, including a lot of football stuff. But it sounds to us like maybe, we talk a little football, and then you tell us a little bit more about Beyonce, Muhammad Ali, all the people that you've known.
Interview is tangents. Tangents.
It's possible this is going to be the first 4-hour podcast we've ever done.
I just want to know
like 4 hours.
How many of your compatriots on that list, and you're in the top 20 of points scored all time in the NFL, how many of the compatriots on that list came from Ivy League schools? Because that doesn't happen a whole lot in the NFL.
You know what? I just found out from Reggie Williams, who played with me at Dartmouth and then had a great career with Cincinnati. He's in the top 50 Cincinnati Bengals of all time, helped found the Disney sports complex down there. And apparently no Ivy League player has ever played more NFL seasons than Nick Lowry.
Don't surprise me none.
And an NFL Hall of Fame nominee in 2020. When's that going to happen?
Every year nominated. Yeah. Let me how can I throw some stats at you? Beat out Stenerud, head-to-head, played 6 more years with Green Bay and Minnesota. His lifetime percentage was 67%. Mine was 80%. He was 58% at Arrowhead Stadium. I was 85%, but who's counting? And Morton Anderson, 20 years indoors. They both deserve to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. Don't get me wrong. They're both great kickers, but so do I. And my percentages were higher outdoors in windy Arrowhead and very windy Meadowlands. But you know what? One of the things I really, truly mean this is at this stage, I'm 65. I mean, I feel like I'm 40, but when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I'm 80, but when I start going, at this stage in your life, it really should be about what makes you grateful, what helps you get up in the morning, doing the things, having the right to do the things you truly love. So that part I love. And I think when you worry too much about the Hall of Fame stuff, it gets you into that ego-based stuff that, it's always, I believe, God's timing to get serious for a second. And our job is just to do the things we love with the passion and the discipline and the integrity, that matters, and have fun, which I try to do, and let the rest take care of itself.
So earlier this year, or I guess it was last year, Justin Tucker hit the kick that has now established the longest field goal in history. You're a kicker. You watch that. It hits the upright and bounces through.
Yeah, 2 inches shorter, it would not have gone through.
Right. Are you thinking good for him, or are you thinking, that one doesn't count?
No, that was an extraordinary kick. I will say, and Stenerud, here he is already in the Hall of Fame. We're sitting in the owner's suite about 5 years ago, and he goes, Nick, you need to tell them that terrible accent, but anyway, you need to tell them, the balls are easy. They break the balls in now. So if you ever played baseball, a baseball mitt's very stiff. You need to put linseed oil and work it through before you can catch. Well, here's a quick analysis for you. The average foot, a lot of science that's pretty accurate. The average kick, the foot connects with the football for 4,000ths of a second. So if the ball's broken in and you add 1,000th of a second to that, 5,000ths of a second, that's what, 20% more
20%
control and power. And so the average kickoffs are 6-7 yards farther. The average net punt is a good 5. It's gone from 35 to 40. And the field goals, the percentages that were at 40 are now at 50. So you tell me. I mean, the kickers are better. They ain't that much better. And so, I mean, that's why. And of course, there are 18 indoor stadiums now versus 5 when I played. So the game conditions, the artificial turf, or the field turf that's grass with a lot of things that help the surface be consistent, like at Arrowhead Stadium, helps a lot. It's like hitting out of the middle of the fairway rather than the rough. And Harrison Butker is one of the 2 or 3 best kickers in the NFL. Absolutely, he's extraordinary,
no doubt.
So I'm not taking away from the great kickers in the game today. And Justin Kicker is the best kicker I've ever seen. But and he also sings opera. I mean, what a jerk!
Yeah, he's fortunately not at the same time.
No, you know what? Wouldn't that be great? Is on an extra point.
But then the very first time he missed one, people would say, if he would just concentrate, he'd be so much better. Hey, I have a question about football, and this comes from a fan's perspective, and probably somebody who's listened to the guys do too much play-by-play in color. These days, with the new rules of a touchback going out to the 25-yard line, wouldn't it make more sense for kickers to kick the ball higher and to have it come down at like the 2 or 3 and force a run back? Because generally they're either not going to get out to the 25, or there's going to be a penalty, because there always seems to be a penalty on a kickoff, which is going to move the ball back. Wouldn't that help field position if kickers started to kick in the field?
This time of year, teams do it. So if you watched last weekend, there were a number of times when they do it. Harrison Butker did it last week. So the week before against the Raiders, anyway, when it's colder, there's wind, you're maybe not going to get it 5 yards deep. So you just kick it really high to the corner with instead of 4-second hang time, 8 yards deep, you kick it 4-4 hang time to the 2. That's exactly what can happen. And if you need to get the ball back, if you're winning, then you probably are better just to kick the ball through, to not give them the chance of breaking through and having a big return.
Yeah, that's true. I have a question from a standpoint of being an adult. Stress.
Is this a different standpoint than normal?
Yeah.
I was going to say, when did that happen?
If I was an adult, what would I do?
That's right. We deal with stress all the time in various forms, man. But you particularly being a kicker, and kickers in general, when you're out there, I mean, a lot of times the game's on the line. And it's like, you get 3 seconds left, the score's tied, or, you're down by 2 or 3 points and you need the field goal. And if you miss it, then you lose the game, not the team. It's you lost the game. So how do you deal with that, man?
Well, first of all, you train so that you are walking through your mental and physical being, every kind of situation, especially crucial kicks. In fact, the truth is, any game that I ever missed a kick, I felt was a failure, right? Unless it was a 60-yarder and I'd made 4 field or whatever. But, that one field goal haunts you. You wake up during the night after the game, trying to break it, make it go through. So that's the essence of being a great kicker, is all these guys that can kick it like Justin Tucker, 66 yards or 70. but they can't do it when it matters in a game. So you have to practice that way. That's the way Pete Carroll practiced. The one great year we had with him, they should have kept him in New York. And really most of the great teams, they understand that. You've got to practice as if it's a game. So you accept that, and the better you are. I mean, I tell the story all the time. 1988 happened twice, 1988 and 1992. Is that right? Yeah. So I was 22 for 23 in 1988, which is an NFL record for percentage late in the season. And I come into a Quick Trip store, gas. I'm getting some eggs and some orange juice, and it's not too far from the stadium. And I go in there, and the lady behind the counter goes, "You're Nick Lowry." "Yeah, the kicker for the Chiefs." "Yeah. I saw you miss that field goal." "What the hell is wrong with you?" And so the truth is, I mean, unfair criticism is absolutely part of the formula of being great and important at anything. Being president, being a great radio host, podcast host, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, policeman, one wrong move in your career, what are you going to be measured for? So
Yeah,
that is horrible pressure. That's horrible stuff. But, taking pride in being the best you can be and understanding unfair criticism comes with it is kind of the only way to deal with it. I mean, especially today, because it's not only unfair criticism, it's criticism from anonymous people that don't know what they're talking about.
Sometimes. Sure. Yeah.
And you just have to, Michael Jordan, Julius Erving would always say, have your standards so high that they can never be exceeded by the expectations of others, and that's really what it is you just love the work. When I talk to kids every day, last night, a couple kids I was talking to, it's always about that, loving the work, finding what stirs your passions, what makes you feel like you're doing something special, and have the standard to be the best at that and work your tail off. And that's the only way I made it. I mean, we haven't mentioned that I was cut and rejected 11 times by 8 teams, but the Nick Lowry in 1978 that got cut by the Patriots after 2 games, even though we beat the Chargers and the Raiders on national TV, was not the same one 2 years later. I was able to be confident that I'd paid my dues and I was ready to beat out, at that point, the greatest kicker in the history of the game, Jan Stenerud, head-to-head every day, and break all his records. So the hard work and the discipline, loving that. And then finally, of course, the reward is knowing, not thinking, but knowing you're better than you've ever been and you're getting better. And that what the path to that is, which is the daily, creative examination of and discipline to not only do the work, but then look at what your discipline is and improve it. How do I even get better? How do I look at the mechanics of my body to make myself an even better performer?
I think I'm going to have to adopt that whole philosophy next time I'm over a 4-foot putt. That's going to help. I do understand, Nick, that you do a lot of excellent work outside of football. And when we come right back, we want to delve into that and talk about it a bit right here. We are the Approach Shot. Nick Lowry, Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame and top 20 point scorers of all time in the NFL. He's our guest, and he's got a bit of a personality.
He was number 1 when he finished, damn it.
He's number 1. I'll get my thumb finger. We'll be right back. Hang with us. All right, number 2, 3. Right. 3, 2, 1. All right. Sorry we were gone so long. We are back. I'm John Ashton here. Neil Michaels there. Nick Lowry is our guest. And the whole stream of consciousness thing, I've been singing Bad Boys since I saw your name on the schedule coming up. So anyhow.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
No, there is no singing. The rule is there's no singing on this.
No, the rule is you can't sing.
Well,
nobody else has to follow that rule. Everything you just said in the last segment, Nick, about the mindset and believing in your greatness, and John sort of threw this away, so I wanted to bring it back up. You play golf. Is this the kind of thing that really can be translated? Because you were one of the greatest kickers of all time, certainly very, very top of your field. But then you get out into the golf course and you're not Tiger Woods. You do play. How do you get yourself into the mindset of saying, I might not be the greatest at this, but I'm going to use that same thought process to go out here and compete?
Well, big distinction is, besides being realistic with your talent, I mean, I think I could have ended up being pretty good in golf. My brother, Mark, was a tennis pro, so I learned the proper form in tennis. I actually won the U.S. Open celebrity doubles all 3 years I was with the Jets on CBS the day before the U.S. Open started, because I understood and I loved the training for it. And it took an hour, hour and a half, not 18 million hours like golf. Having said that, you have to be realistic at any age, but particularly as you get older, that you're willing to put in the commitment and the work to be great in golf. Golf, more than any sport just about, requires just a lot of work to get that touch and that awareness of distance and all the different types of shots you have. Having said that, if, capital I, capital F, your commitment is to be great and to do the work, then part of the work can be, as John was talking about, lining up that 4-foot putt. You practice it 1,000 times. And then you can literally say, as I had a show on Sirius Satellite called Head Games, and I had Bart Connor on. I think he had the first perfect 10 in men's gymnastics in the U.S. You literally make practice so much like the game, right? Or like the match or the performance, that when you get to the actual arena, you say, I'm back at practice. You make it so that you can fool yourself into just trusting that. And that's really what it comes down to, is trusting that you don't have to do anything more than just be what you've always been. Then the way the brain works, to get complicated a little bit, but really, when you are self-conscious, the brain will activate the large muscle groups for fight or flight, and your touch is diminished. When you're less self-conscious, if you create a word that helps you release that and just react, all of the millions of synapses in the brain just do what they naturally do. Your natural flow when you throw, your natural flow when you kick, your natural flow when you hit a baseball, when you hit a golf ball, all those things can take over. And so for me, as an analogy, and for those that play golf, this is one thing you could do. Find what works for you. I would be lining up that kick in my first step as I'm approaching the ball, not my first step, but my plant step. I was a right-footed kicker. My left foot, I go left foot, which was reminding me just to point the left foot exactly at the target. And then secondly, I'd say explode. That's what worked for me. Explode was not try to kill the ball, but just attack it. And so my game-winning field goal percentages went up more too, because I just, when you're self-conscious and trying to be too perfect, that's when you get in trouble.
Cool.
Excellent. He would make a good golf instructor, don't you think?
I think.
I think
I would know just enough to really screw them up.
That's funny. That's kind of how we play. We know just enough to screw up every time.
My next door neighbor, so to my right, coming out my front door, 2 doors down, with Muhammad Ali. To my left, 2 doors down and across the street, was Gary McCord.
Oh.
And Gary is one of the funniest people ever.
Greatest mustache in golf, man.
Greatest mustache. And he was partners with Peter Costas.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter's email was not Bob. And they started a golf school. So when I interviewed them together, sometimes I'd say, so Peter, what does Gary do? And Peter would say, in his rather caustic humor that was his style, I pay Gary to stay the hell away from the golf school. That's what they do for me. They pay me to stay away.
Gotcha. Well, people who wouldn't pay you to stay away are the people that you've been working so tirelessly. That's one of those words I just shouldn't even try to say. Tirelessly, in Arizona. You head up a group called Champions for the Homeless, and I know I've talked to people who know you. This is something that really you sink your teeth into.
Excuse me,
you've worked.
Excuse me, I got to take this call, man.
Okay, go for it. Should I just keep going?
Hello.
I'm going to keep going.
Hey, I'm doing
So
good.
you've worked tirelessly on Champions with the Homeless, and the whole point is that you give a voice to the homeless. You don't like the fact that a lot of people treat them as though they're invisible.
Well, I started Champions for the Homeless at St. Vincent de Paul 16 years ago, and it felt so right from the beginning. We started it on Thanksgiving. We did it again on Christmas. We did it again.
Oh yeah, we've already got. I mean, Alexis already sent the.
And should we wait? Maybe we should wait.
Yeah, I thought he was going to mute his mic.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
It's President Biden.
It really is.
Yeah,
he gets these calls all the time from
Obama.
From luminaries. I think the Queen just called and said, "It's raining here on Christmas. Can you come by and just bring an umbrella?" And yeah, that's why I don't do accents.
Sounds good, man. Are they out of the house, or will they be out of the house, or do you know?
He's literally like today or tomorrow. Moving.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's really no big thing. We're still gonna take our time moving everything from here over there, so it's no biggie. All right, man. Well, thanks. I'll have a good weekend and have a happy Christmas, and I'll talk to you next week. All right. Thanks, Austin. Bye.
And Austin, don't ever call again.
Don't interrupt Nick Lowry.
Sorry, guys.
Don't interrupt Nick Lowry.
Well, that's my mortgage broker, man.
We gathered.
Yeah.
All right, let's pick it.
Right.
We'll pick it up. So, Nick, there's a whole lot of information that has come our way regarding your work with the homeless in Arizona, and you started a group called Champions for the Homeless. Part of the mission is to make it so that people don't think homeless people are invisible, that they're human beings too. They deserve to be treated as such. So I'm very interested in hearing how that came about and what you do.
Well, I think all of us can find something that really matters to us. And frankly, if it's one thing, one person that we help every day, it's amazing how that changes the caliber of our life and experience. And I don't even remember exactly how it was. I think I was invited down to St. Vincent de Paul 17 years ago. And I just thought, I should do something more with this. So we started a thing where I would get 15 of my NFL brothers here wearing their jerseys. And then I got 1,000 flowers. And then we added music. And so as they come in through St. Vincent de Paul, they walk through and they're welcomed by all these pretty ladies. We got to always have Miss Arizona's there. And all these ladies, we started with the big guys handing out flowers. It just didn't feel right. So they then followed as they're coming down. They have these large guys welcoming them. And our whole thing is to put a human face, but also just to come from unconditional love and respect. And so, really the same spirit as the one I alluded to with Muhammad Ali, just everybody's important. And so I spend what grew from 30 volunteers to 400 volunteers. I spend 20 minutes before just saying the most important thing, because you're so used to what's my goal, what's my role, what do I do as a volunteer, is the most important thing you can do is treat every single person as the most important person with love and respect and ask them their story. So we hand out now, it's grown and evolved. We've added all these different layers to it. So now I get I give away 1,000 $5 gift certificates to Starbucks and McDonald's and 1,000 flowers. And then we're giving away 500 sweatshirts, 1,000 pairs of socks, 500 pairs of underwear, and all sorts of other donated clothing that can help the homeless when they want to dress up for a job interview, for instance. Mm-hmm. And it's just really tapped into all the volunteers, many of whom are retired, saying, and some of them extraordinarily successful people, saying, this is the piece that was missing from my life. And I really do have an issue. Everybody goes, issue? Oh no, what? But I do have a real problem with the, mercenary quality of Christmas and Thanksgiving, particularly Christmas, when it's really about love. It's really about connection that we can do every day. Mm. And so when you do Champions for the Homeless, first of all, you realize so many of the people that you meet, when they're given respect and love and they're safe, these layers, the Bible would call it scales, but these layers of protection and these masks that they harden themselves with to protect themselves disappear.
Oh,
And
wow.
now that we've been doing it, we've done almost 60 events now over 16 years. And we've had amazing people. Just to mention Demarius Thomas, who died last week.
Mhm.
Tragically, he was at one of our events, sweet human being. Larry Fitzgerald was at Thanksgiving. The Bidwell that owned the family, Nicole Bidwell herself, the sister of Michael Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, is bringing her therapy horses. We have chiropractors. We've had haircutters, which we're not ready to do right now with COVID yet, but we will soon. And what's interesting is during COVID, we made Phoenix the very first city in the country to provide free rapid COVID testing for the homeless, and then we provided vaccinations, and so just doing all sorts of things that say you are not forgotten, you're important. And the other thing is, Tony Robbins, who I've been lucky enough to work with, he would talk about the quality of the questions you ask, which as a phenomenal podcast host, I'm sure you know, determines your values, and the stories you tell determines what's important. So if you get the media to cover the homeless, number one, number two, to interview the homeless, as we did on Thanksgiving, and there were three homeless folks, two African Americans, one Hispanic American, articulate, grateful, clear-headed, shattering these notions. And then last Christmas, we had two ladies who had been homeless, and their eyes were bright. They're wearing masks, and their eyes are just glistening with love and appreciation. And so it shatters unconsciously and consciously the viewing public. It shatters the way they look at the homeless. And what you've noticed, what I've noticed, and what everybody here has noticed is, while by definition the homeless issue is a desperate one, it's a heck of a lot better than it is in Los Angeles and Southern California and San Francisco, where it's just a problem. It's a problem. What do we do? As opposed to, these are individuals, and it's amazing how you treat people differently when you do that. In fact, speaking of that, the whole police issue, I'll even go there. Sheriff Paul Penzone, who replaced Crazy Joe Arpaio, whose pink underwear thing, or whatever, it had some merit in there somewhere, but Paul Penzone was there with his wife, wearing a mask, not asking for any attention at all, just serving. And so the same principle applies in communities where the police know the people that they're working with and serving, and vice versa. When the community looks at the police as individuals, when you look at somebody as a human being, you treat them differently.
I'm working.
Absolutely.
That's really our passion, and we've seen it make a huge difference. And so St. Vincent de Paul, another thing that's really important, whether it's a radio station or whether it's any company, any organization, the same people that I started working with 16 years ago, Steve Zabilski, Danielle McMahon, Jessica Berg, Jerry Castro, the same people are there 16 years later. So the values are so deep that even though the job description is never what all the millions of things that you never were told you're going to have to do, you have to do, especially with COVID. Hello. And
Right.
they're still there. And so there's stable leadership. And so it's incredibly gratifying. So we went from 400 volunteers during COVID last year to 15. And yet we pulled it off. St. Vincent de Paul had to create bags with the prepackaged food so that there was no touching at that point.
Right.
Then we went to 30, then 50, and now we're back up to about 120 volunteers. We'll probably have about that this time that we're allowed. We probably won't do much more than that, but that's still a great number that we can do a lot of service with. And now you're driving home after the event, and it feels the way Christmas should feel. It feels the way Thanksgiving should feel. And, obviously, really gratitude should be a daily thing every day of your life, but having something that you intentionally work towards to make you feel clear about why you're so grateful. that changes everything in your life. And for us spoiled narcissistic athletes, we have,
I was
Mike Lowry. Have to, all of us, I think we just have to check what is real success.
Yeah.
And have a sense of being grounded in the things that can never be taken away from us, the levels of happiness and gratitude and satisfaction and fulfillment and connection. I think today with COVID, especially, we are on kind of StreamYard, Zoom sort of thing. There are a lot of people that are so isolated and they're missing that sense of connection. So
definitely,
I think there's a human music we play at St. Vincent de Paul at Champions for the Homeless. And if you guys want to go to nicklowry.org and there's a donate page, you can see all sorts of videos about what we've done and do, including working on, providing job training for high paying jobs. That is over $20 an hour jobs where you might actually save a tiny bit of money and have a better chance of getting out of poverty.
Very cool. One thing that struck me as you were talking, man, is the two groups, the group of professional athletes and the group of homeless, the general public has a problem perceiving as real people.
Yeah.
And when you can get like time with you now, or time with like you have with the folks at St. Vincent de Paul, you get a totally different idea of who these people are, and you can see them as people. And that way you build a relationship and the world gets better.
You also see people that just, where do you need me?
Yeah.
When do I sign up? What time do you need me there?
Yeah.
And then the people that may not quite be there, they witness that and they go, gosh, I want that. And you know what? Here's the other thing. Talk about, the NFL now uses a phrase, generational wealth, which is a beautiful phrase for guys coming from 73% African-American, often from poor families that never had education or wealth of any sustainable kind. But there's also generational mental health too. And I just think that, the different types of wealth, when the players witness how good this feels, and then their kids come with them, tell their father or mother, we got to go back. I never felt more powerful. I never felt so great. And here I am helping an adult. I'm 12 years old and I'm helping a 40-year-old be less, unhappy. I see a smile on their face and they connected eye to eye with me, soul to soul, if you want. And then to talk about grateful, I get emotional talking about this. Some of these kids that were 10 and 12 do the interview after 3-4 years of doing it. I bring them in and they speak to the cameras. What do you think it does to them for their lifetime? Yeah. When they, at the age of 13, 14, by the way, their parents seeing it too, being an advocate in a productive, wonderful way, articulating really profound notions of equality and love and, overcoming adversity and being there for people. That's the exact antidote, the exact vaccination, frankly, emotionally and spiritually, what we need today with all of these divisive messages when we have, for the most part, 75, 80% of the population, I believe, are sane and want to do the right thing and want to work hard, want to be loving, want to be great parents, want to be great citizens. And that's who I'm interested in. The other people that don't respond to that, well, they're missing out.
Yeah.
Yep, they're lost.
John, he's a wonderful guy, and I hate what we're about to do to him.
Well, he'll get over it. 6-pack, 6 questions, hot seat. Yeah, it's coming up. Hang out with us here on The Approach Show.
Don't mess with Mike Lowry.
Here we go, the final one. And we are back. I'm John Ashton. He is Neil Michaels. Nick Lowry is our guest and has been for this entire program. And I think we should just make it a series with Nick. I mean,
I do too. Yeah.
Just, become an integral part of the show here.
We say all the time, we'd really love to have you back. But we would really love to have you back. Unfortunately, Nick, what comes at the end of all these shows is the terror of the 6-pack of questions that we're about to fire off to you. And what we ask of you is that you give us the very first answer that comes to mind, Don't think about it. It doesn't help. Nothing helps. And give us the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it. If you think about it, you'll hear something like,
no,
and then you'll know. You ready?
I don't know.
Perfect. Question 1. Nick Lowry, you can choose anyone in history to sit down and have a cocktail with and talk sports. Who would it be?
Winston Churchill.
Interesting. Was Winston Churchill a big sports fan?
Well, he was half American, half English. And of course he was a sports fan. He was one of the most competitive SOBs in history.
That's true.
And he had one of the greatest senses of humor of all time. I just think he would have an amazing perception. First of all, today's sports environment with, TV everywhere, 35 cameras on the football field, slow motion, this weird thing. By the way, I'll share something with you. When you're lining up a field goal and that cam that comes over the field lines up behind you, you can hear it. So it's coming up. And it's behind you. You're like, don't focus. Whoa. It's weird. I take my hat off to the guys that don't let it distract them.
Wow, that was that. I don't think we've ever had a tangent quite that far out on a question in the six-pack.
Also, the first Ivy League educated person we've had on the show, so that's where the Churchill answer came in.
There you go. Perfect. Question 2: which teammate of yours was most fun to play with?
Danny Salamua. Danny Salamua was our nose tackle. He was only about 6 feet tall, but he was about 300 pounds. He was low to the ground. He was always around the football, and he was just like a natural comic. So I got him back one time because during practice, we were practicing a fake field goal, and he ran out and shoved me down to the ground when he really didn't have to. So he turned around, and he's not a small man, and he's walking back, and they're all chuckling during practice. It's late season. And so I got up ahead of steam. And at that point I was 215, 220 pounds, and I hit him, boom, right below the numbers and sent him flying like that, skidding on the grass. He wasn't laughing then, but he was one of the funniest guys ever. Derek Thomas was also pretty funny. He would say to me, Nick, you're not the man next to the man. You're not the man behind the man, and you're not the man in front of the man. You are the man.
That's great. That's a bumper sticker if ever there was one. Question 3. You're instrumental in bringing a voice to the homeless, as we've talked about. If you could create a t-shirt and give them to all of our listeners that would communicate your mission, you have one line. What would it say?
We all matter. You know what? That's probably politically incorrect, but a soul is a soul is a soul. How's that?
There you go. Perfect. Question 4. A lot of people don't know this about you, and we didn't cover it because we've only been talking for 6 hours. You worked with Presidents Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, and Bill Clinton. Of the 3, who would have made the best professional football player?
Wow. Oh gosh, probably Reagan. When he was obviously younger. He was an interesting guy. He was a tough guy. He would have been a great form tackler. W was a decent athlete. HW was a baseball player, as you know.
Right.
Clinton. So we had on May 25th, 1993, and this is actually in Sports Illustrated if you look it up. I helped host with the president because I was working in the White House Office of National Service, and we were launching AmeriCorps. And that's another great story I would love to share with you because President Dole was really the one, and he just passed away. But we had Dan Marino, Joe Theismann, Thomas Hearns, Dave Winfield. We even had Sinbad. We had all these people in the Oval Office that were doing things in their communities. So I'm standing next to the president. And hold on. Well, it's right there. If you can see that up there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's
another Nick Lowry picture of proof.
So that's me leaning against the president's Oval Office desk, and he's got pink skin. He's lost 20 pounds. I said, Mr. President, you look great. What's your secret? What have you been doing? He goes, and this is May 25th, so it's warming up in Washington. He goes, Nick, I've been running sprints on the South Lawn, and I said, Mr. President, I guarantee you were the first and most likely last president to be running sprints on a regular basis on the South Lawn. So, and I'm not sure that he was the kind of athlete that would have been a great football player. He might have, but I'd go with Reagan probably.
Reagan. All right. Question 5. We got to open up to us on this one. What's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you on the field?
Absolutely. So they have these blowers, heaters on the sidelines that are, again, they don't have them high, which is weird to me. I mean, make them higher so they hit the guys, in their mid region rather than not their feet. But right before, near the kicking net, right around the 30-yard line, there's a blower, right? So, but when it was really cold, I would crouch down in front of the blower to get some heat in my legs because it could be really, really cold. In fact, December 8th, I think it was, we played, the anniversary, it was 31 wind chill below zero. We intercepted John Elway 4 times. Late in the season, it could get really, really cold, right? So now we're playing San Diego, and it's cold, and I'm crouching down in front of the blowers, and Brian Barker, our punter, in my holder goes, "Nick, you burned a hole in your crotch." And I kicked 2 field goals. We're driving for the game-winning field goal. And I later found out it was the 300th field goal of my career. And I've got this big hole in my crotch right where right there. And I'm wearing stuff under it, but still it would have been kind of embarrassing. So Mike Davidson, the greatest equipment manager ever, I called attention to him. He cut little holes on either side of it, and he got lace and just laced it up. Literally now we're past the 50, and literally 2 minutes later I line up, went out and kick a 36-yard field goal right hash right down the pipe. And then kick the ball out of the end zone, and we beat the Chargers. So, but that was pretty embarrassing.
That's a great one, and kudos to your equipment manager.
Yeah,
he got some quick thinking. All right, question 6, and we ask this of everybody who comes on the show. Since we are the approach shot, Nick Lowry, in your approach to life, what one rule do you live by?
Align your values so clearly that you find something to serve bigger than you that gives you a sense of lasting, impenetrable joy and satisfaction. Do the things that really matter to you so you have no regrets.
Wow, I don't feel like Nick felt this was the hot seat at all. For him, it sounded like
you gave him these questions in advance.
Yeah.
Did you?
You are off the hot seat.
He's been practicing this.
Yeah. I get the feeling that was not a challenge for him.
I was told that Beyonce was watching this show and thought, maybe she's having second thoughts. It's been a while. Maybe we can kind of try again.
She's just thinking that could have been.
To the left, to the left, to the right, to the right.
Did you have one story you wanted to tell us? You just said something else I want to tell you guys.
Oh gosh, there's so many stories. Well, if I was talking about the White House, that was pretty amazing. I gave a tour of the White House to Dan Marino, Sinbad, and Dave Winfield. That was pretty cool. So another quick story. I was giving my family a tour because HW freaked out the Secret Service because he was so informal. And this is, of course, before 9/11, so the rules were different back then. But he was so laid back. So at 6 o'clock, I could start giving tours. So my 5-year-old nephew Justin was with us, and we're at the Oval Office. And there's a stanchion there, and there's a Secret Service guy standing next to it, and Justin crawls under it and then crawls under the president's desk. And I looked up at the security guy and said, "Will you please not shoot my nephew?" And another one is in '89, I actually Greg Petersmeyer was being approved by the Senate to run the Office of National Service, which President H.W. Bush had created as a testimony to service. And so I had his office the first month. So I could look at room 100 of the old executive office building, which is that big gray building to the right where 3/4 of the staff work, and I could look over, and there was a line of cypress trees just to the west of the West Wing, but you could see a space where there was a swimming pool, and Mrs. Bush was swimming in that heated pool. And then you could see at about 5 o'clock, the president, who's left-handed, because he put together a horseshoe pit, and he'd go. It was sort of like his aerobics. He'd go back and forth on the horseshoe pit, tossing with his left hand. I could see him from the waist down. So that's just a fun little memory.
Yeah,
and something we can't unsee. The idea of Barbara Bush in a pool, I can't unsee that now.
I did not see that part. I just saw her arms like that. So speaking of Barbara Bush, so in 1989, we had in mid-April National Volunteer Week, and so I had Bobby Hebert, former quarterback, who was from, he had the French accent from New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And Mike Tomczak, who at that point was the quarterback for the Bears. So I'm giving them a tour. And we had a photo op with the First Lady, and there's a white marble bust of Harry Truman between us and behind us. And she's standing there, and we're laughing because, as you can see in the photo, she's got a perfect kiss lip, lipstick kiss on her cheek. But she had such a great sense of humor that she could laugh at herself. Now, the story I was going to tell you about was with AmeriCorps. Senator Dole, I'd worked for Elizabeth Dole in the off season, and I didn't care about party. I still don't. I think parties are all based on money right now and not about solving problems. Dole was from Kansas, so I'd gotten to know him and had tremendous sense of humor, very humble. He's very approachable. And we had to get AmeriCorps passed. At that point, Dole had shut down what's called the Budget Reconciliation Bill, which is the president's first effort to say, here's what I want to do, here's what I want to spend. And Dole, being the Republican leader, shut it down like, wait a minute, you haven't talked to me. Why don't you meet with me first so we work and have a relationship together? And so now I go to the Hill with Eli Siegel, who's the head of the Office of National Service, and Rick Allen, who is our chief of staff. And I simply said to Senator Dole, listen, service is something the Democrat and Republican both understand is crucial to this country, is at the core of our fiber. And you don't have to vote for it, but please just don't oppose it. And he didn't. And so AmeriCorps became the first major or significant legislation of the Clinton era. And to that left, as I point back there, that letter right there is a kind of cool story, because then there's the signing of the bill. Okay. So the bill was to be signed on September 21st, 1993. Well, we're playing the Buffalo Bills the night before, Monday night. And so I can't get there in time for the signing. Well, I happened to kick 4 field goals, and we beat the bejesus out of Buffalo and Marv Levy, who used to be my coach, ironically. Right. So I get a letter a few days later, handwritten, that's it, from the President of the United States. And it said, congratulations on a great game, underline great, Monday night. All of your National Service pals are proud. Thanks for the time you gave to the National Service effort. I thought of you yesterday when I signed the bill. The kids of this country will be better for it, and so will the rest of us. And
very cool. Very cool.
Wow, that's the way to wrap up a show. How do you beat that?
You don't.
No. My God, it was a pleasure to have you, Nick. We've had a lot of notable people on the show, but I have to tell you, I think that this is probably one of my absolute favorite interviews, because you bring so much to the table. Your humor, your decency, the fact that you do a great job in communicating things that we all sort of feel, but maybe don't know what to do about it. So this has been an absolute joy.
I enjoyed it a lot too. So, the word namaste, right? I see the light in you, right? And I really believe that too. Speaking of post-football and post-career, is realizing when I see something good in somebody else, it's because it's in me. And when I see something bad in somebody else, I've got some work to do here too. So thank you for saying the good things, and really enjoyed it. Thank you.
There's fantastic. And just one more time, what's the website for people to go and check out?
It's nicklowry.org or nicklowry.com, NICKLOWERY. There's an E there, ERY.com.
Right.
And you'll see all sorts of videos. It's a 501c3. And our most important program, as you very kindly brought up, is Champions for the Homeless, which we'll be doing on Christmas Day.
Right.
And anything you can do to support the work we do or do it in your own community is a blessing. Thank you.
So a friend of mine once said when we were ringing the bell one Christmas season, he said, don't give until it hurts, just give until it feels good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nick. Hopefully we'll be able to talk again right here on the Approach Shot.
Sounds good. I'd love it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Good
luck on Christmas Day. I understand it's going to be a big event.
It is. It is. If you find me on Facebook, we'll have all sorts of pictures there. And, once again, what's cool is that, the media cover it and more people realize automatically, what are we doing? What are we doing at Christmas? More and more people, what are we doing that's not just about, presents and what am I getting? It's cool.
Yeah.
Next time, we'll also talk tequila.
Yes, please. El Bandito Yankee Tequila. I'm hosting the Hula Bowl in Orlando. We're moving it from Hawaii because the wonderful Hawaiians allowed the Pro Bowl stadium, the Aloha Stadium, to rust so badly that they condemned it. Last year's Hula Bowl, which I did the pregame show for, was the last game ever at that stadium. So there's no major stadium in Hawaii. The University of Hawaii has to play at basically a practice